Hey guys, Annie here. Welcome to today's video and welcome to another speed build. Today we're in the world of Newcrest and we are building a starter home which is base game only. This particular home is a 2x1 and it comes in at 19,119 simoleons. And it is available on the gallery, so if you do enjoy today's video and you would like to download this build and use it in your personal gameplay, my gallery ID is Antoinette44. It is in the description below. And also, if you do like this type of content, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Okay, so a little bit behind the inspiration of today's build. Today's build is my attempt of building a fancy square box. So a lot of us, when we started building our first builds, were essentially just a square with a roof. And it had no shape to it, it had no pizzazz, and our first builds were very potentially cringeworthy. I know mine was. And I wanted today to build a home that was purposely a box. So this is just a giant square, no bump outs. And I wanted to find a way to mitigate the boxy feel, the kind of plain looking houses that we used to build. So in today's build, that is the goal. And I think I've done a really good job. So I did see a square box kind of looking house on Pinterest. And I did use that particular build inspiration for the exterior of the build, and I've gone with a brick house. Now this is a really pretty house, and you will see a little bit later on I add in some base game spandrels. This entire build is base game, but the spandrels are very like a colonial style, and it pairs really well with the columns and the brick. Yeah, and I just really loved how this build turned out. It's such a cutesy little home, and because it's so affordable, you could quite easily have 2 to 3 Sims living in this house. And yeah, it very good for a first build home. All right, so inside I have just talked over the floor plan. So you have 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, as mentioned. So you walk in, you have your kitchen to your right hand side, and to your left you kind of walk into where the living room and dining is. It's very reminiscent of the Kit Cabana house that's in the starter home that's in Willow Creek, where it has that kind of kitchen off to the right hand side with the dining. I kind of pulled a little bit of inspiration from that. And because of the way that the floor plan is done in this particular build, we don't have a back entrance. We don't have a backyard, essentially. We have a very spacious front yard, though, which I think is I think it's fine in The Sims. It does kind of reduce the amount of realism this particular home has, because most homes would have a back entrance, a front and a back. But I think it's okay in The Sims. I think you can get away with not having it. And yeah, so what I wanted to do as well, because I wanted this to be a starter home, and with the starter home, I think you get about, is it 20 to 22,000 simoleons, depending on how many Sims you have, in the household. So, if you were to have a couple of Sims, you would easily have spare change for this particular build, and you can go in and you can add things and remove things and whatnot. It actually, it makes it's a very good starter home. I really like this build. So I've decorated it for the space of a child Sim with, an adult's room, and I did keep it very minimal in here. So I started off with all of the basic furniture that you need, and then that kind of gives me a gauge of what we've got left in the budget, how much simoleons we have left to play with, and then from there I can tweak it and add things. So at this point, that's exactly what I'm doing. So I've added a Bluffy in the kids' room because I want them to have some toys. I want to make sure that there's a dresser at least in one of the 2 bedrooms. But if not, you can always just use a mirror. So the good thing about The Sims is you don't even need a dresser anymore, because they can just use a mirror and change their appearance that way. So if you are tight on funds, there are some things that you can skimp out on. I really loved these yellow flowers. I think that the yellow pairs really well with the red and the brick. And it just is such a cutesy home. Like, I think that it's adorable. And I made sure to afford some outdoor equipment and, objects. Here we've got some gardening and the monkey bars, which I think is really good because we have a child sim in this particular home. And of course, all of the landscaping is debugged. So gone into the debug menu and just gone through the base game section. And I'm just starting to frame the house with trees. I then move into some shrubs. And yeah, as you can see, there's no backyard, but I don't think it needs it. Like, I think that you could even still build upon this home if you wanted to. You could also add in some base game fencing. Or some debug fencing, sorry, and you could make a cute little courtyard out the front. You could do a lot with this build. With the landscaping, I did keep it very minimal. I could have, looking back at this, used a lot more yellow because I have incorporated that in the facade of the house. But I decided to just stick with greenery and white, which is generally, if you've watched a lot of my content, that's generally what I do. Like, I keep a very minimal landscaping. I think when I play The Sims personally, like, if anything, the landscaping is the first thing to go. Like, if I ever need simoleons or if I ever need space, I just get rid of the landscaping. It's not really my, cup of tea. But I do feel that it is so necessary to elevate a build. Like, if you look at a house that doesn't have any landscaping versus one that does, it's just going to look so much more put together and realistic. All right, at this stage, I have some final funds and I'm trying to, use up what I have left sparingly. So I thought to add some curtains. I added a rug in the living portion. I love the idea of backing the dining table behind a couch. I do it quite often when I'm trying to conserve space. And I just think that it's a really clever way to use the space. I've used a lot of greens, browns, a lot of warm tones in this build. I was able to put in a chess table out the front. And yeah, I think I'm just adding the final touches to the build now. And at this point, I'm just trying to make sure that it's got everything that we need. Like I've added in an easel because there was a lot of blank space in the master bedroom. And I thought I could use that. I did have a coffee table, but I got rid of it. And I think that, might as well use the space elsewhere. Gone in with a cheap stack of books instead of a bookcase to save money. I've gone in with some upper cabinetry, but very sparingly because of how the windows are placed, but it still looks put together. All right. We are live in game and we're going through the tour. So out the front, you have a gardening section, the monkey bars, you have the chess table and whatnot. You walk in, you have your living, your dining area, and then off to the right, you have a beautiful little kitchen. I even have a coffee maker in there, a very basic bathroom, just has everything you need, not much going on in there. You have the master bedroom, which uses the beautiful greens and browns and has a computer, which I think is so important in any Sims home. And then lastly, we have the child's room, which I've used a lot of orange and I've just gone and put in a rug in there. And yeah, that is the build today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope you enjoyed today's build. And if you do, let me know in the comment section down below. Bye bye for now.